In a galaxy torn apart by war, where enemies are made and broken with each passing battle, one soldier's act of mercy to an enemy warrior will forge an unexpected bond that could change the fate of the universe. When a Zean mercenary, feared across the stars, is left to die at the gates of a human outpost, Captain Reed defies his orders to save her. But when the tables turn and their roles are reversed, will the debt of mercy be repaid, or will the cost of compassion be more than they can bear? The opening scene of the script sets the stage for a universe embroiled in constant warfare. The battlefield described is a desolate wasteland, where the earth has been scorched and the metal remains of weapons and war machines lay scattered across the terrain. This imagery emphasizes the destruction that the conflict has wrought on the land, leaving behind a haunting reminder of the violence and chaos that have consumed the galaxy. The wreckage symbolizes the brutality of the war and the devastation caused by the warring factions. Amid this destruction, the focus shifts to a lone figure, a Zean mercenary, who stumbles toward a human outpost. Her appearance is striking. She is a towering figure, and her iridescent scales gleam under the moonlight, giving her an almost otherworldly presence. However, the grandeur of her appearance contrasts sharply with her condition. She is battered and bloodied, her armor cracked and streaked with the telltale marks of a violent battle. This visual description emphasizes the physical toll of the war on this warrior and hints at the personal cost of the ongoing conflict. The Zean's arrival at the human outpost signifies both a literal and symbolic crossing of boundaries. She is an enemy combatant, an elite mercenary feared throughout the galaxy for her combat skills. Yet in this moment, she is no longer the imposing figure of a merciless warrior. Instead, she is a wounded, vulnerable being on the brink of death. This moment marks a crucial turning point for her character, shifting the narrative from one of battle and bloodshed to one of survival and mercy. As she collapses at the gates of the outpost, the guards react with fear and mistrust, further emphasizing the tense and hostile environment between the alien species and humans. The Zean's presence represents an immediate threat to their safety, and the guards' refusal to help her stems from their ingrained prejudice and fear of the alien enemy. This sets the tone for the tension that will follow, establishing the internal conflict that will soon unfold regarding the decision to save or abandon this warrior. As the Zean mercenary collapses at the gates of the human outpost, her appearance immediately triggers fear and hostility from the human guards. These guards, who have likely experienced countless battles and witnessed the deadly prowess of Zean warriors, are quick to react. The Zean's mere presence at the outpost is a symbol of danger, and the guards' fear of her is evident in their immediate reaction. "Don't let her in," one of them hisses, and another mutters, "She's one of them." "Oda, she's dangerous." The choice of words highlights their deep-rooted fear of the Zean, showing how the conflict has shaped their perceptions of the enemy. The use of the term Oda likely refers to the Zean's military designation or a term associated with their warrior class, implying that this mercenary is not just any soldier, but one of the most formidable among them, further amplifying the threat she represents. The guard's swift judgment of the Zean illustrates the deep mistrust that exists between the warring factions. In a war-torn universe, alliances are often frail, and prejudice runs deep, especially when one side has been subjected to the brutality of the other. The Zean mercenaries, known for their elite combat skills, are feared across the galaxy, and to the human soldiers, they are seen as a symbol of oppression and merciless aggression. The Zean's status as an enemy combatant alone is enough to elicit immediate hostility from the guards, reinforcing the idea that, in times of war, distinctions between individuals, such as the distinction between soldier and civilian, are often blurred. The guards see only the uniform, the race, and the history of conflict, making them incapable of recognizing the mercenary as anything other than a threat. This fear and distrust are compounded by the soldiers' personal experiences in battle. Having likely seen the brutality of the Zean in action, they view the mercenary as someone who has committed countless atrocities against their people. Their anger is rooted in a cycle of violence, where each side views the other as the enemy to be feared and destroyed. The guards' instincts to protect the outpost and themselves from further harm make it difficult for them to see beyond their prejudice. In their eyes, allowing the Xian in would be akin to inviting their own destruction, which is why they resist helping her even though she is in critical condition. Furthermore, this moment introduces a key thematic element of the story: the complex interplay of empathy and fear in the face of conflict. The soldier's refusal to aid the Xian speaks to how fear, deeply ingrained through years of war, can cloud judgment and prevent acts of compassion. The Xian, despite being on the brink of death, is seen only as a threat, unable to be viewed as a fellow soldier in need of help. This sets the stage for Captain Reed's pivotal decision to defy the prevailing sentiment of fear and take an unexpected action that will challenge the guard's perspective and alter the course of the story. The fear and distrust that initially defined the guard's response are essential to understanding the tension and conflict at play in this universe, creating a stark contrast with the compassion and mercy that Reed will soon demonstrate. Amid the tension and fear surrounding the arrival of the Xian mercenary, Captain Reed, a human medic with extensive battle experience, finds himself in a difficult position. The chaos outside the medical tent is palpable, as the soldiers are divided on what to do with the enemy warrior who has collapsed at the gates. Reed, unlike his fellow soldiers, is not consumed by the immediate instinct to protect his own people at all costs. Instead, he is driven by a sense of duty and compassion that transcends the boundaries of enemy lines. This moment marks a crucial turning point for Reed, as he steps into the narrative not only as a healer, but as a moral compass for the outpost, choosing to defy the popular sentiment around him. When Reed hears the commotion outside, his first reaction is not one of fear, but concern. As a medic, he is accustomed to dealing with life and death situations, but when he steps outside and sees the Xian in her dire state, her armor cracked, blood staining her, something within him stirs. His professional instincts as a healer immediately take over, but there is also a deeper, more personal call to action. He sees a fellow soldier in need, not an enemy, and that understanding overrides any ingrained hostility or fear. This instinct to help, to preserve life regardless of the person's allegiance, is what sets Reed apart from the others. The decision to intervene is not a simple one, and Reed knows it will be controversial. The murmurs of disapproval from his fellow soldiers quickly turn into outright opposition. One soldier protests, reminding him that Shek killed dozens of our kind, referring to the Xian mercenary species and the bloodshed they have caused. This outcry highlights the complex emotions at play. Reed's fellow soldiers are motivated by revenge, anger, and the deep scars left by previous battles. In their eyes, saving the Xian is tantamount to betraying their comrades who have fallen to the hands of the Xian mercenaries. For them, showing mercy to an enemy is unimaginable, and Reed's decision seems almost foolish. However, Reed's response is firm and resolute. "Shek, a soldier like any of us," he says, his voice calm but steady. The phrase reflects his belief that despite the Xian's allegiance, they are both soldiers at heart, caught in the same brutal, unending cycle of war. He insists that soldiers, regardless of who they fight for, deserve mercy, and that every life is worth saving. This moment reflects Reed's deep moral conviction, as he recognizes that mercy should not be reserved only for one's own people, but extended universally to all who are wounded in battle, regardless of their uniform. Reed's decision to order the Xian to be brought into the medical tent further underscores his commitment to this belief. As he kneels beside her, his hands steady despite the hostile murmurs from his comrades, he begins the delicate task of tending to her wounds. His actions are methodical, focusing not on the Xian's identity as an enemy combatant, but on her immediate need for care. This moment represents a stark contrast to the fears and distrust of the other soldiers. While they see only the threat of the Xian, Reed sees a life in need of help, embodying the values of compassion and mercy that define his character. Ultimately, Reed's choice to help the Xian represents a moral stand in the face of overwhelming pressure to conform to the cycle of hatred and violence. By prioritizing the preservation of life over the instinct to destroy the enemy, Reed's decision becomes a powerful statement on the potential for empathy even in the midst of war. It also sets the stage for the transformation of the Zean mercenary, who will come to see mercy as strength rather than weakness. Through this act, Reed inadvertently begins the process of bridging the divide between the humans and the Zean, one that will unfold as the story progresses. Captain Reed's decision to save the Zean mercenary sets the stage for a pivotal moment in the story, one that involves both physical and emotional healing. As Reed enters the medical tent and begins to tend to the Zean's wounds, the atmosphere is thick with tension. The murmurs of disapproval from his fellow soldiers are a constant undercurrent, but Reed remains unfazed. This is where his professional skills as a medic and his personal beliefs intersect. He has committed himself to preserving the life of the Zean, despite the enmity between their species, and now he must carry out the difficult task of saving her life. The Zean, who remains unconscious as Reed works, is described as having a ragged breathing pattern and twitching claws, which emphasizes how close she is to death. The severity of her injuries is clear, and Reed is fully aware that every minute he spends working on her is critical. The jagged wound across her abdomen is a deep and dangerous injury, and the blood, which is described as silver, further signals her alien nature. Yet, despite the significant physical toll her body has endured, Reed's focus remains entirely on saving her. This scene shows Reed's skill and composure under pressure, qualities that are essential for a combat medic. The use of antiseptic on her alien flesh, which sizzles upon contact, adds a visceral quality to the scene, demonstrating the unique nature of the Zean's biology and the challenges Reed faces while tending to her wounds. What stands out in this moment is Reed's single-minded dedication to the task at hand. Despite the overwhelming opposition and tension in the room, he continues with his work, stitching up her wounds and stabilizing her condition. His actions contrast sharply with the view held by his fellow soldiers, who see the Zean as a threat that deserves no mercy. The scene underscores the deep moral divide between Reed and the others. For them, the Zean's actions in war make her unworthy of saving, while for Reed, her status as an enemy combatant is irrelevant to his duty as a medic. This stark contrast sets the foundation for the emotional and philosophical journey that will unfold between Reed and the Zean. During the operation, the Zean mercenary, although unconscious, is aware of the pain she is enduring. Her faint groans indicate her suffering, but it is also during this time that she is confronted with Reed's unwavering resolve. She manages to speak, albeit weakly, asking him why he is helping her despite the animosity between their species. Reed's reply, "Because no one else will," is simple, yet profound. It reflects his recognition that, in a world ravaged by war, acts of kindness and mercy can be rare. This moment becomes a defining one for both characters. For Reed, it reaffirms his belief in the inherent value of mercy, and for the Zean, it sows the seeds of doubt about her preconceived notions of human weakness and the brutal nature of her own people. The aftermath of the operation sees the Zean still unconscious, but alive, a testament to Reed's skill and compassion. The room, which had been filled with whispers of dissent and fear, is now quieter, as Reed has proven through his actions that there is power in showing mercy, even toward the most feared enemy. This marks the beginning of the Zean's journey, not just from physical recovery, but from a place of hatred and suspicion to one of understanding and respect. Reed's decision to save her not only keeps her alive, but sets the stage for a relationship that will transcend the enmity between their species. In the larger context, this moment serves as a microcosm of the broader themes of the story: war, mercy, and the potential for change. Reed's willingness to treat the Zean mercenary as a person, rather than as an enemy, challenges the dehumanizing effects of war. It sets the groundwork for the idea that individuals, regardless of their species or allegiance, are capable of growth and transformation, especially when they are shown compassion in times of need. This act of healing becomes the catalyst for what will follow: as both Reed and the Zeon begin to redefine their understanding of each other and the war they are caught in. The Zeon mercenary, now named Vea, awakens a week after the surgery, and the narrative takes a significant turn. The time spent in recovery gives her body the strength it needs to heal from the brutal injury she sustained. However, it is not just her physical wounds that are healing, but also her perception of the humans around her, especially Captain Reed. The moment Vea regains full consciousness marks a pivotal shift in her character development. Before this moment, Vea was a formidable mercenary, likely hardened by years of combat and the brutal realities of war. Her worldview, shaped by the Zeon's culture and military practices, was rooted in strength, pride, and a rigid understanding of what it meant to be a warrior. Weakness was something to be punished, and mercy was viewed as a flaw. However, Reed's intervention has already begun to challenge these ingrained beliefs. When Vea opens her eyes and sees Reed standing by her, she immediately recognizes the gravity of what has transpired. She knows that Reed's actions were not only an act of healing, but also a gesture of kindness, a mercy extended toward her, despite the centuries of animosity between their species. Her first words reflect this recognition. "You risked everything to save me." She is astonished by his decision, especially given the violent history between their two peoples. In her world, such an act would be unimaginable. Her reaction reveals the extent to which Reed's compassion has shaken her foundation. She is now confronted with a complex question. Why would someone who has been at war with her people, who has lost comrades to the Zeon forces, offer her this kind of help? This shift in her thinking marks the beginning of her internal conflict, as she struggles to reconcile the mercy she has been shown with the hardened worldview she has lived by for so long. Reed's response to Vea's question, "Sometimes the right thing isn't popular," serves as a calm but profound explanation of his motivations. He does not make the decision to save her based on what others think or the strategic advantage it might offer. His actions are not driven by the idea of an alliance or some future benefit, but by a deep moral code that insists that mercy is the right course of action, regardless of the consequences. For Reed, it is a simple matter of doing what is right, even if it challenges the collective mindset of the soldiers around him. His calm confidence in explaining his actions without seeking justification is key to helping Vea begin to view him, and by extension, humanity, differently. In contrast to her initial assumptions, Vea begins to understand that Reed's mercy is not a sign of weakness but of strength. She has always been taught that mercy was a weakness, a liability that could endanger a warrior's survival. Yet, in Reed, she sees someone who, despite the potential risks, chose to act out of compassion. It challenges her perception of what it means to be strong. For Vea, this experience is not just about her physical survival, it's about her transformation. She starts to question the very principles that have guided her life and her role in the ongoing conflict. Reed's actions, based purely on empathy and not on strategic or personal gain, show her a different kind of strength. The strength to extend mercy even when it is difficult, unpopular, or dangerous. Vea's gratitude is palpable, but it is accompanied by a sense of awe as she attempts to process the complexity of Reed's actions. This moment sets the stage for a shift in her worldview, as she begins to understand that the war she's been fighting may not be the only path to strength. By showing her compassion when no one else would, Reed has opened a door to a new perspective. In this moment, Vea also shifts from being merely a mercenary and soldier to a more reflective individual, one who is beginning to understand the deeper implications of her choices and the possibility of personal growth. Moreover, this interaction between Reed and Vea deepens the emotional connection between them. Vea's gratitude for Reed's actions is clear, but it is not a simple expression of thanks. It is the beginning of a relationship based on respect and understanding, rather than blind allegiance to one's own people. Vea's shift in perspective also marks the start of her own journey toward reconciliation, where she must come to terms with the role she has played in the larger conflict and what her future might look like beyond the battlefield. In a broader sense, this exchange underscores the theme of personal transformation. and how one act of mercy can set the stage for monumental change in the mindset of an individual who was once entrenched in an unyielding worldview. This pivotal moment also serves to underline one of the central themes of the story: compassion as a transformative force in the face of war. Vea's experience of being saved by someone who should be her enemy is a powerful example of how acts of kindness can transcend the violence and hatred that define conflict. It shows that even in a universe ravaged by war, there is room for understanding and the potential for change. This change is not just in Vea's perspective, but also in Reed's understanding of what it means to be an ally, a friend, and a force for good in a broken world. Following Vea's successful operation and the growing tension within the outpost, Captain Reed makes a crucial decision that will have a lasting impact on both his relationship with Vea and the moral fabric of the human soldiers around him. The outpost is a place of military and strategic importance, and its inhabitants are soldiers who are constantly on alert for potential threats from the alien factions. The discovery that Vea, a member of the feared Zean species, is alive after having been saved by Reed's mercy creates a situation fraught with political and personal danger. Some soldiers view her presence as a direct threat, given her previous involvement in the war and her species' reputation as merciless conquerors. Others see her as an enemy that should not be given the chance to recover or stay within the outpost walls. The general consensus among the soldiers is that she should be handed over to Zean commanders or left to die outside, but Reed's stance is clear. Vea stays until she is strong enough to leave. This decision is not made lightly. Reed fully understands the danger of harboring an enemy combatant, especially one from a species as ruthless as the Zean. He knows that by allowing Vea to stay in the outpost, he is going against the will of many of his fellow soldiers. He is also risking the potential reprisal of the Zean Empire if they were to discover that one of their elite mercenaries was kept alive by the humans. But Reed's choice is guided by a deeper moral code that transcends the harsh realities of war. His decision to keep Vea safe in the outpost is rooted in the belief that mercy, as he has shown, is not only a humane act, but also one that fosters potential for change. In Reed's view, Vea is more than just a soldier. She is a living being who, through his intervention, now has the chance to reconsider her actions, her values, and her future. The tension within the outpost is palpable. The soldiers around Reed make their displeasure known, some even demanding that Vea be handed over to their enemies. The fear and distrust among them are understandable. The Zean's reputation as a brutal, unstoppable force precedes them, and for many soldiers, the sight of one of them recovering within their ranks is a reminder of the danger they face. There is a clear divide between Reed and the rest of the troops. While the majority are driven by fear and a desire for retribution, Reed's decision is driven by compassion and the hope that humanity can rise above the cycle of violence. This stark contrast in values highlights one of the central themes of the story: the clash between mercy and the instinct for revenge. Reed's decision to keep Vea in the outpost also speaks to the complexity of human nature, especially in times of war. On one hand, his fellow soldiers see this as a pragmatic decision based on survival and strategy. They're focused on protecting their own lives and securing their place in the ongoing conflict. On the other hand, Reed recognizes that while victory may come through military strength, it is also possible to achieve change and growth through acts of kindness and understanding. The humanity he displays in this decision is a rejection of the mindset that sees the enemy as nothing more than a threat to be obliterated. It also highlights Reed's personal journey as he navigates the difficult path between duty to his comrades and his conscience, which compels him to act with compassion. Vea's presence in the outpost also serves as a symbol of the possibility for reconciliation, albeit an uneasy one. Reed's decision to allow her to recover is not a simple act of kindness. It is a recognition that the cycle of violence cannot continue indefinitely without devastating consequences. The soldier's opposition to her presence reflects the common desire to retaliate against a long-standing enemy, but Reed's resolve emphasizes the potential for a more humane approach to conflict. By choosing to keep her alive, Reed not only takes a personal stand against the brutality of war, but he also sets a precedent for the possibility of peace, however unlikely it may seem. This decision marks the beginning of a deeper bond between Reed and Vea, one that will evolve over time as their understanding of each other grows. In the larger context, Reed's actions also reflect the broader theme of moral courage in times of crisis. The decision to harbor an enemy in the midst of a hostile environment requires immense strength, both physical and emotional. It calls into question the nature of enemy lines and the importance of seeing beyond the uniform to recognize shared humanity. Reed's choice signals that the true measure of strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the ability to preserve and protect, even when it goes against all conventional wisdom. This act of defiance against the instincts of war further cements Reed's character as someone who believes in the possibility of redemption, even for those who may once have been considered irredeemable. His willingness to take a stand against his comrades, for the sake of mercy, lays the foundation for the surprising turn of events that will follow as Vea's recovery leads to her eventual role in protecting the outpost. Months after her recovery, Vea's fate takes a dramatic turn as she reappears on the battlefield, not as an enemy, but as an unexpected ally. The outpost, once a place of relative stability and safety for the human soldiers, comes under a fierce attack from a rival alien faction. The enemy's assault is relentless, pushing the human forces to the brink of collapse. As the battle intensifies and the human defenders begin to lose hope, a powerful, thunderous roar suddenly echoes across the war-torn landscape. This sound heralds the arrival of Zeon ships, massive war vessels descending from the sky like harbingers of destruction. At the head of this formidable force is Vea, whose presence on the battlefield is as striking as it is unexpected. Her appearance, fully armored and battle-ready, is a shock to the human soldiers who once saw her as an enemy, a symbol of their losses and suffering. But now, her actions on the battlefield reveal a new side to her character. Her movements are precise and deadly, her tactical mastery evident as she leads the charge against the rival alien forces. The sight of the Zeon fleet and its captain, Vea, completely turns the tide of the battle. Under her command, the human forces find hope, and the enemy faction is thrown into disarray. Vea's warriors, now united under her leadership, decimate the attacking forces with unmatched ferocity and coordination, routing them from the field. The once overwhelming threat to the outpost is swiftly neutralized, and the human soldiers are left in awe of what they have just witnessed. This dramatic reversal of roles, where a Zeon mercenary, once their enemy, is now fighting alongside them, is a turning point not only in the battle, but also in the relationship between Vea and Captain Reed. Her actions are more than just military intervention. They symbolize a transformation, both personal and ideological. In leading her forces to the aid of the humans, Vea shows that her previous identity as a mercenary fighting for the Zeon cause is no longer her sole defining feature. Instead, she has become a warrior with her own code of honor and loyalty, one that recognizes the value of human mercy and compassion. Her return to the battlefield represents not just a physical comeback, but a moral one as well. For Reed, seeing Vea return as a savior on the battlefield is an emotional and intellectual moment of profound significance. When he first saved her life, Reed did not expect any repayment or allegiance in return. His actions were rooted in the belief that mercy, even in wartime, was the right course. However, Vea's return to the battlefield brings that act of mercy full circle. She is not only repaying the debt in a practical way by saving Reed and the outpost, but also showing him that his compassion was not misguided. In a world where enemies rarely change and loyalty is often fleeting, Vea's decision to return and aid the humans marks a powerful shift in her own beliefs. This act proves to Reed that mercy is a force that can bring about unexpected alliances and change, even in the most hostile of environments. The fact that Vea does not fight alone further underscores the depth of the transformation she has undergone. She leads a squadron of Zeon ships, restored to their full strength and under her command, signaling her authority and control over her people in a way that was unimaginable when she first arrived at the outpost as a broken, dying soldier. This newfound leadership is significant not only for her personal development, but also for the larger story of the Zeon people. Vea's actions reflect a different kind of strength, the ability to lead with honor and compassion, qualities that have been sorely lacking in the Zeon Empire. Her leadership on the battlefield symbolizes a break from the oppressive, conquest-driven mindset that once defined her people and highlights her transformation into a more complex, multifaceted individual. The battle itself also serves as a dramatic illustration of the value of mercy and compassion, showing that saving a life can ripple outwards, leading to broader change. Vea's involvement in the conflict leads to a decisive victory for the humans and the eventual retreat of the enemy faction. The outcome of this battle serves as a metaphor for the potential that exists when individuals, regardless of their species, choose to act with empathy and strength rather than hatred and vengeance. Vea's decision to return is not just an act of personal redemption. It is a broader symbol of hope, demonstrating that even in a universe torn apart by war and distrust, there is room for the unexpected and the redemptive. In the larger context, Vea's return highlights the evolving nature of war itself. While traditional warfare is often about overwhelming force and complete dominance, this battle demonstrates the power of unity and the possibility of unexpected alliances. Vea, the once feared enemy, now stands as a protector, offering the human soldiers a glimpse into a future where compassion and mercy can foster mutual respect and cooperation. Her return to the battlefield reinforces the idea that the most profound victories are not always won through sheer strength, but through the ability to build bridges, even with former enemies. Ultimately, Vea's return to the battlefield not only saves the outpost, but also signals the beginning of a new chapter in the relationship between her people and the humans. The battle's outcome, shaped by her leadership, sets the stage for future collaboration and the potential for peace, despite the deep scars left by war. This transformation, from merciless warrior to compassionate ally, marks a pivotal moment in both Vea's personal journey and the broader conflict between the Zeon and human forces. After the battle, Vea and Captain Reed share a moment of rare camaraderie and understanding. As the dust settles from the attack, with the rival alien faction retreating and the human forces recovering from the onslaught, the two characters are left to reflect on the aftermath. In the midst of this devastation, a profound shift occurs between them, a shift that reflects the growing bond forged through their past interactions, mutual respect, and shared experiences. What was once an unlikely alliance between an enemy alien mercenary and a human soldier has now become something deeper, a bond that transcends race, species, and the destructive forces of war. When Vea approaches Reed after the battle, there is a clear sense of gratitude in her eyes, yet it is tempered with a quiet dignity. She acknowledges that Reed, through his mercy, gave her a second chance at life, and now she has returned the favor by saving him and the outpost. This moment is pivotal because it is the first time Vea truly expresses the weight of Reed's decision to spare her. While her actions in battle have been fierce and decisive, it is her words that offer insight into the true impact of Reed's mercy. She speaks to him with a softness and vulnerability that was absent when they first met, reflecting her transformation from a hardened mercenary to a more nuanced individual who understands the value of kindness. Her acknowledgement of the debt she owes Reed is not just a form of gratitude. It is an affirmation that the act of saving her life has fundamentally altered her perspective on life, war, and the complexities of human emotions. For Reed, this moment marks a critical juncture in his own personal development. Initially, Reed's decision to save Vea was driven by a sense of duty and compassion, but he never expected any form of repayment. He acted out of a belief in the inherent value of life, regardless of who or what the person was. Now, as Vea stands before him, expressing her gratitude and reaffirming the importance of his mercy, Reed is confronted with the deeper consequences of his actions. He begins to understand that mercy, though seemingly weak in a world driven by conflict, has the power to change lives and create new bonds. This realization is a turning point for Reed, as it solidifies his belief that human compassion, despite being misunderstood by others, is a strength rather than a weakness. Vea's words, "You saved my life, and now I've saved yours," encapsulate the essence of this exchange. There is a quiet mutual understanding between the two. This is no longer just about a debt owed or a soldier fulfilling an obligation. It is about two individuals who, through the crucible of war, have come to recognize the humanity in one another. It is a rare moment of connection, one that transcends their initial roles as enemy and ally. Through this exchange, Reed is reminded that the consequences of his mercy are far-reaching and that, in this unforgiving universe, such acts can have a lasting impact on both the person who shows mercy and the one who receives it. The bond that forms between Vea and Reed is not based solely on the events of the battlefield. It is built on a deeper understanding of each other's values and motivations. Vea, who comes from a species where weakness is punished and mercy is seen as a flaw, is grappling with her own internal conflict. Her previous life as a Zean mercenary, where brutality was the norm, is in stark contrast to the compassion Reed showed her. Through Reed's actions, she learns that there is another way, a way that values life over conquest, understanding over domination. In a way, Reed's kindness is teaching her a new path, one that she had never considered before. For Reed, the process of understanding Vea's transformation is equally important. He is no longer seeing her as just another alien enemy, but as a person, a soldier who has been shaped by her own experiences, fears, and values. This realization humanizes her in a way that makes it difficult for Reed to view her as just the other anymore. While their backgrounds and histories are drastically different, they now share something significant, a moment of humanity in the midst of war. This shared experience of survival and mutual aid forms the foundation for a deeper, more personal bond, one that could transcend the boundaries of their species and cultures. The importance of this growing relationship is emphasized when Vea says, "You taught me something that day. Human mercy is not weakness, it's strength." This statement reveals a profound shift in Vea's worldview. The once rigid, harsh rules of the Zean Empire, where mercy was considered a liability, are being replaced by a new understanding. Vea has learned that mercy, when wielded with sincerity and integrity, is not a weakness. It is a form of strength, a tool that can be used to break cycles of violence and forge alliances where none seemed possible. This lesson from Reed has fundamentally altered her perspective on both the battlefield and on life itself. In essence, this moment represents the fusion of two different worlds, Vea's war-torn past and Reed's human ideals, into a shared understanding. Both have undergone transformations, and the mutual respect they now have for one another lays the groundwork for a deeper, more enduring bond. What started as an act of mercy on Reed's part has blossomed into an unspoken friendship based on the recognition of shared values. This moment of mutual respect and understanding paves the way for further cooperation and is a reminder that even in the darkest corners of war, there is room for compassion and redemption. The day comes when Vea, having fully recovered from her wounds, must leave the human outpost. Her time there, marked by a complex and evolving relationship with Captain Reed, has come to an end. Vea's departure signifies not only the physical end of her stay, but also the culmination of the journey she has undergone, both in terms of healing and personal growth. This moment is one of bittersweet departure, as the bond between Vea and Reed has deepened. Yet Vea knows she must return to her people, to her own destiny, which lies beyond the gates of the outpost. Her leaving is not just a farewell. It is a symbolic representation of the changes that have taken place within her since she first arrived as a near-death enemy soldier. Before she leaves, Reed accompanies her to the gate, the place where their paths diverge. The tension that had once marked their interactions, the mistrust, fear, and animosity between human and alien, has all but dissolved. In its place stands a mutual respect forged through acts of mercy, survival, and shared understanding. As Reed walks Vea to the gate, the finality of the moment sets in. The gravity of their shared experiences and the profound bond they now share make this departure difficult. It is clear that Reed has come to value Vea not just as an ally, but as a friend, and he feels the weight of her leaving. But he also understands that Vea, like all soldiers, has her duty, and she cannot stay forever. Her place is not with the humans. It lies with her own kind, and she must fulfill her role in whatever war or conflict awaits her. At the gate, as Vea prepares to leave, she pauses and turns to Reed. The golden gleam in her eyes that once symbolized an intimidating warrior now carries a more contemplative, almost vulnerable quality. There is a subtle but powerful shift in her demeanor. She no longer views Reed as simply the human soldier who spared her life. In this moment, she sees him as a peer, a comrade who, through his actions, has shaped her understanding of strength and humanity. As she stands before him, Vea makes a promise that carries weight and sincerity. "I owe you a debt, Reed. One day, I will repay it," she says. This promise is significant because it represents more than just gratitude. It is a vow that carries the weight of their shared history and the bond they have forged. Vea's words are not merely symbolic. They are a declaration that she values Reed's actions and that she will find a way to repay him, not just through words, but through actions. Reed's response to her promise is one of quiet acknowledgement. He does not press her for any immediate repayment or expect anything in return. His smile, faint but sincere, signifies that he has no expectation of a debt being settled, yet he recognizes the gravity of Vea's words. "Just try not to get injured again," he says with a chuckle, lightening the moment, but also acknowledging that their bond is one of mutual respect and understanding. Reed's response reflects his own growth throughout this experience. He has learned that acts of mercy are not about obligation, but about fostering a deeper connection with others. Vea's promise is a gesture of reciprocity, but Reed does not see it as a debt. Rather, he sees it as a reflection of the new foundation they've built together. He has learned that, in the universe they inhabit, the true measure of an ally is not in what is owed, but in the willingness to stand by one another. As Vea turns to leave, her tall frame silhouetted against the setting sun, there is an air of finality to the moment. The outpost, the place where their unlikely alliance began, fades into the background as Vea walks away. This is not just a physical departure, but the symbolic closing of a chapter in both Vea's and Reed's lives. Vea is returning to a world of conflict, a world where weakness is punished and mercy is often overlooked. But through her interactions with Reed, she has come to understand that there is a different way of being, a way that values life, compassion, and mutual respect. Her departure is a reflection of this understanding. She leaves the human outpost not just as a soldier, but as a changed individual, one who has learned that mercy is not a flaw, but a strength. The promise Vea makes to Reed, that she will repay him one day, lingers in the air long after she is gone. It serves as a reminder that acts of kindness and compassion do not go unnoticed, even in a universe torn apart by war and distrust. Vea's words are not just a debt of gratitude. They are a testament to the power of mercy and how it can transform individuals, even in the most unlikely of circumstances. While Reed may never see Vea again, her promise serves as a lasting reminder that their bond transcends the temporary nature of their time together. It is a promise that carries with it the possibility of future encounters, of shared victories, and of a continued understanding that, despite the chaos of the universe, compassion remains one of the most powerful forces at play. Vea's departure also serves as a reflection of the larger theme of the story, the idea that acts of mercy can create ripples that extend far beyond the immediate moment. By saving her life, Reed not only changed the course of Vea's journey, but also set in motion a series of events that altered the course of the battle, the fate of the outpost, and even the way Vea perceives the world around her. The promise of repayment is a reflection of this enduring impact, one that shows that even in the darkest corners of the universe, compassion can have far-reaching consequences. Vea's departure, and her promise to Reed, is a final acknowledgement that sometimes the smallest acts of mercy can ripple outward, creating bonds that outlast even the most violent conflicts. Months pass after Vea's departure, and Captain Reed continues his duties at the outpost, returning to the routine of a soldier embroiled in the ongoing conflict. The memory of Vea, the Zean mercenary whom he saved, begins to fade into the background as Reed is absorbed in his responsibilities. However, just when Reed thinks he has left behind the events that transpired with Vea, the outpost is suddenly thrust into a dire crisis. A rival alien faction, with its formidable forces, launches a surprise attack, leaving the human defenses vulnerable. The threat is immediate, and the situation looks bleak. As the enemy forces tear through the human defenses, Reed and his comrades are left scrambling to protect the outpost, and the morale of the soldiers begins to falter. Hope starts to wane as the human forces realize they are at a severe disadvantage against the overwhelming strength of their assailants. In the midst of this chaos, when the enemy seems poised to deliver a devastating blow, a deafening roar shatters the tension, and the night sky is suddenly filled with the thunderous sound of approaching ships. The distant hum of Zean ships grows louder, and Reed's thoughts immediately flash back to Vea, as if he senses that something extraordinary is about to happen. In a moment of both fear and anticipation, the Zean squadron appears over the battlefield, their ships descending with terrifying precision. Leading the charge is none other than Vea herself. Her armor gleams once more, the same warrior who had once been an enemy, now coming to the aid of the very people who saved her life. This dramatic entrance marks a turning point in the battle, as Vea and her squadron of Zean warriors land with overwhelming force, decimating the enemy ranks with surgical precision. Vea's return is nothing short of a game-changer for the humans at the outpost. Her presence on the battlefield shifts the momentum in their favor. What was once an assured defeat for the human forces now turns into a stunning victory. Vea leads her forces with ruthless efficiency, demonstrating her formidable combat skills and tactical brilliance. The enemy, taken off guard by the sudden and unexpected appearance of Zean forces, begins to retreat in disarray. Vea's warriors, trained in the art of war and bolstered by their loyalty to her, strike with unrelenting force. This is not the same mercenary that Reed had once saved. This is a warrior transformed, a leader who commands her people with authority and strength, and whose actions on the battlefield leave no doubt about her capabilities. For Reed, witnessing Vea's return and her decisive role in turning the tide of battle is a moment of profound realization. He had saved her life out of compassion, never expecting any form of repayment. But now, in this moment, he sees the true depth of her gratitude and the extent to which their bond has evolved. Vea is no longer just an alien mercenary. She is a powerful ally, one who values the mercy Reed showed her and who is now offering her strength in return. Reed understands that mercy and compassion are not just isolated acts. They have the power to create lasting bonds that transcend the boundaries of species and conflict. Vea's return is not simply a matter of repaying a debt. It is a testament to the strength of the connection they formed, a bond that has led her to fight for the humans who had once considered her an enemy. When the battle is won and the dust settles, Vea approaches Reed, her golden eyes filled with a rare softness. Her words reflect the completion of a cycle. You saved my life. Now I've saved yours. We are even. This statement is not just a closing of the chapter. It is a recognition of the transformation that both Vea and Reed have undergone since they first crossed paths. Reed, who had once been unsure of Vea's true nature, now sees her not just as a former enemy, but as a person shaped by her experiences, her gratitude, and her sense of honor. Vea, in turn, sees Reed not just as a human soldier, but as someone who embodies the very ideals that led her to question the values of her own people. Their mutual respect is now undeniable, And the battle they fought together has solidified their relationship in ways neither could have anticipated. Reed, in his characteristic modesty, chuckles at Vea's words. "You didn't have to bring an entire army to repay me," he says, lightening the mood after the intensity of the battle. Vea's smile, small but genuine, is a rare expression of warmth for someone so accustomed to the harsh realities of war. Her smile is not just a gesture of thanks. It is a recognition of the lessons she has learned from Reed's actions and the strength she now finds in Mercy. Vea's understanding of human compassion has deepened, and she no longer views Mercy as weakness, but as a powerful force that can change the course of lives. As Vea prepares to leave once more, Reed calls after her with a lighthearted remark. "I guess this makes us allies now." Vea glances back at him, her gaze steady and resolute. More than that, she replies, a rare note of affection in her voice. In this brief exchange, Reed understands that their bond has evolved beyond mere alliance. They are now friends, united by the shared experiences that have shaped them both. Vea's departure, though not permanent, marks the end of one chapter in their relationship and the beginning of another, one where they can count on each other as allies, even if they are on different sides of the galaxy. Vea's return, and the role she plays in saving Reed and his comrades, serves as a powerful reminder of the impact that mercy, compassion, and understanding can have in even the most hostile environments. Their bond, forged in the crucible of war and solidified through acts of kindness and strength, proves that even in the darkest times, there is room for light, for friendship, and for the hope that one day, mercy can heal the wounds of a fractured universe. Vea leaves the battlefield not as an enemy, but as a true ally, one whose loyalty and respect for Reed and for the values he represents will echo in the battles yet to come.